Welcome to Stage Dive, a podcast where we go deep on the art of live performance to help artists perform better on stage. I am your host, Jack Dawkins. I am a rapper, poet, and storyteller out of Boulder, Colorado. My guest today is Caroline Ravn. She is a magician coming all the way from Sweden. She has been practicing and pursuing magic as her full-time career for 9 years. She is also the mother of twins, which is in some ways even more amazing. We talk all about how synonymous David Copperfield is with magic. We talk about the power of human connection and trust when it comes to performance. And we talk about what it feels like to be someone who practices a craft when you're watching a true master. I love this conversation. When do you get to talk about magic this much? And I hope that you enjoy it as much as I did.
It is kind of insane that we can be connected from Sweden to Colorado with this little tiny interface and have a conversation about performance from across the world at what is 10 a.m. my time and is it 6 p.m. your time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bonkers. But I think where I'd love to start is how did you get started with magic?
Well, it all started when I was 3. Well, I guess it started way earlier, really. But for me, it started 3 because my grandfather was a magician. So he decided to ruin my life when I was 3 to make sure that I never had any good friends and that I would be living with a wand for the rest of my life. So he was a magician and my dad a politician. So, lying on the job was always encouraged. And as a rebel child, I decided to go the opposite way after my grandfather passed away. So I turned to church. So I left the devil's work to go to church. And, I was just going back and forth, really. And after staying in church for a really long time, I thought that maybe I should be a minister. So I studied theology for 5.5 years. And then I was like, maybe I had it right the first time around. So I left school, I left the church, and now I've been doing magic full time for 9 years.
Holy smokes.
I should have known.
I should have known. The devil.
Yeah.
He's good at what he does.
The debt I'm in.
I can see that. I can see that being a possibility. So magic's in the family because grandfather did it. Your father was a politician, which is super interesting. And is that at like the local level, at the national level?
Well, in Sweden, I guess in America too, there's like the 3 levels, right? So it's like the city and then the county, I guess, and then the state and then national, right?
Yes.
So that would be 4 for you. So he is the second one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very cool. And you made specific mention that you were a rebel child. What does that mean?
Yeah, well, what do I mean by that? I say that all the time, but I was the middle child. We're 5 kids, and I had a twin, and my twin passed away in childbirth. So I mean, well, not her giving birth. It was when my mom was giving birth to us. So I needed to clarify that. So I never had my twin, but I always felt like I was lonely and, like I was left behind in a way. And I think maybe I just started figuring this out since I just had twins myself. So I started reading up on twins and how that works and the connection and the special bond and, all of these things. So I was the middle child, right? And my twin passed away. And then 2 years later, my parents had twins again, and they both made it. So that's interesting. So I'm obviously never having more kids than this because that was, nope, no thank you.
All set.
But I think maybe that's what made me feel like maybe I needed to take more space than I was allowed to in a way. Maybe that makes sense for other people who are performers too, because I kind of felt like there was no real outlet for me as a kid. And whenever I tried, there was always this super hot kid in school who was like bullying me afterwards. But it never stopped me really. I didn't perform magic. I was just trying to be funny.
Yeah. So that's helpful context for sort of like that rebel wild child. The performance aspect particular, was that also just something that was like in you from day one?
I don't think so, actually. I think I always wanted to, but as I said, I didn't have the right outlet for it. And I remember when I was growing up, we had this thing on Fridays where it was like the class hour in a way. So you could like dance to Spice Girls, which all the cool girls did.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh my God, you were just stepping back and forth. Do you remember that? Oh my goodness. And look at TikTok now, and these kids are like doing sexy dances, and I'm like, where is the world going?
Yeah.
Um, and this is the world I'm bringing my kids into.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so that's interesting. No, but we had these like hours where you could perform and all of that, and I did sometimes, and I wrote some poems sometimes, but it just wasn't right. And then when I've been in the church for a few years, they kind of gave me an outlet for speaking my mind, and they very early on made me like a youth leader, so I got to like preach, and I used to teach other kids, and I mean, maybe that's what maybe that's the spark I needed. I sometimes joke, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm in so much debt because I went to theology school, and I am, but it taught me so much about connecting to yourself, connecting to others, and I truly
Mm.
think that's what made me a better performer.
I mean, that's sort of the core of the whole thing. And what's lovely for me is I do more and more of these interviews and talk to more and more people from different parts of the world. That's all what it boils down to. It doesn't matter if it's stand up or rapping or magic or I spoke to a burlesque dancer last week, which was amazing. And so much of our conversation was about how are you emotionally connecting with the people that are present in front of you, and how are you creating an experience for them by reading and by understanding how they're feeling in a particular moment. And like, I think
Yeah.
that's the beauty of the art. That to me is what feels so rewarding. Like, don't get me wrong, I love performing as the performer and getting to be excited, but seeing the way it can land for people, and that you can kind of watch them go through this experience of like, oh, I didn't expect that, or I didn't know this was
Right.
possible, or I didn't know this is what I was getting into. Like, ooh, it's so good. It's
Mm.
so good.
Yeah, I remember first time I was doing my first tour of the country. I had a director who's a professional clown, which I highly recommend everybody. If you are a performer listening to this, I think you are, because it's about performing. And
Yes.
you're thinking of getting a director, hire a clown. It was the best experience I've ever had hiring anybody. But he asked me, "What do you want people to feel or talk about when they leave the theater after the show?" And
Mm,
I hear myself never saying the words, uh, oh my God, how did she do that trick? Or, oh my God, I'm so fooled. Because that really doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't want them to leave the theater feeling fooled or embarrassed, or I'm so
mm.
sad that she brought me up on stage. I felt so bad. What I did say, though, was, oh my God, I love Caroline. She's so funny. I wish I could invite her to like a dinner. That'd be so fun, because I want them to feel like we're friends, and that I'm no better than them, and that we're in this experience together, even though magic is better than every other profession. We all know that, so just said it. But yeah, I really wanted
Clearly.
them to feel that.
Yeah, I mean, my brain is bursting with questions. I want to rewind for just a second. Can we talk more about why a clown specifically was such an excellent person to play your director?
He saw funny in every single moment. Like when I see
Mm,
serious, when I see script, when I see trick, or how is this problem going to be solved, he just saw funny. Every single moment was funny, and he's so good at improv. Like when you're a clown, shit happens, because kids are gonna toss ideas at you, and he's so professional. I think he was one of the founders of Clowns Without Borders, if I'm not mistaken.
oh my
Uh,
gosh.
yeah, he's great. He's amazing.
Yeah.
So, that'd be a good person for you to talk to too, by the way. He has so much knowledge, and his English is amazing. His Swedish, not so much.
Yeah.
So I try not
But
to
he's
make
doing his best, which is okay. Yeah, by all means, if you want to connect us, I would love to
Of
speak with him.
course.
That would be fascinating.
Of course. No, but so he saw the funny, and he was like tossing ideas at me, and he was like, improv this. Like if I didn't have the trick for it, he was like, okay, mine what the trick would look like, and then you tell me what happened. So that was amazing. Like how else would who else would give you that experience? A drama
Right.
director would not. Somebody who works in theater would not. A magician would not. A comedian would not, because they don't see it that way. But hiring a
Mm,
clown, highly recommend.
pro move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was very serendipitous, and it sounds from the way you're describing yourself and how often you look for the funny in things. It sounds like there was a very natural synergy between the way that you both thought about the world, saw the world, and so his observations were supportive of the work that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah, amazing,
He's also given me
amazing.
a lot of great lines that I use in my show. One
Mm,
that is quite new. Uh, well, I had twins, and that's every magician's dream, to have twins. So you can take one baby, vanish, and reappear the other one. But they don't look alike. so I can't use them
Oh,
for that, So what a shame. So I say that in the show, and we were talking when the babies were like 6 or 7 weeks or something. I went out for dinner with him and a couple of weirdos, and I was like, this is what I want my kids to grow up with, people who are juggling chainsaws that are just happen to be burning, and burlesque women, and all of these people that I was sitting there having dinner with. And then the clown, he was like, oh, it's so funny with twins. What a shame only one of them bounces. So now I say that in my show too. Like, he's like, these things that people say, and same thing when you're doing a show, just listen to what people are saying, because most of the time that's comedy gold. That's genius. They say something that they don't even think about, and it's hilarious. And if you don't record yourself, or if you don't take 5 minutes after every show to like write down every single piece of gold, you're gonna forget it. And when I'm with Nalle, is his name, which means teddy bear, which is amazing because he looks like a teddy bear. So whenever I'm with him, it's like I find myself like, I have to write this down, and I don't have that many friends that is like that, but he's one of those, just comedy gold.
yeah. I want to go back to something because it's a sentiment that I connect to, but do you self-identify as weird?
Special is a better word.
Mm,
God-given, no?
sure.
No, I don't think I'm better than anybody else. Even though I do have a tattoo that says "designed by God." I came home after having had that tattoo. It was a gift from my sister for my 18th birthday. I came home and
Mm.
showed it to my dad, and he was like, well, that's not true. You were made in Helsingborg, which is a very small town. Uh, didn't have to know that. Did not have to know that. But no, I don't think I'm weird. Do you think you're weird?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. But although,
Why?
like, well, I think I'm human, and I think that the experience of being a human being on Earth right now is incredibly weird. Um, like, we are still biological beings who still have nervous systems that need a lot of regulation with food and sleep and connection and relationship. And then we have this profound social structure around us, at least, like, speaking of you of living in a Western country, um, that, like, how could you describe it as anything other than bizarre? And so I think we each kind of get to choose how we navigate that. And not by definition, but I think for me personally, navigating that in a way that felt authentic to me always felt really important. But a lot of the time, that means I do things and I approach things in a way that isn't normal or common for a lot of people. Um, it's like it's a fun exercise because if you take away the connotation for weird, which is negative, like a weirdo, and just look at it as like, do you move through the world differently than most other people? I think I would answer yes. Um,
Yeah.
and at the same time, like, I feel like, I loved your story because there was a full circleness to it. And I feel like I'm living a similar circle in that, like, I continue to just believe in and invest in my own weirdness for a long time. And it has allowed me to connect more authentically to myself and to trust myself and believe in myself. And now I'm finding it so much easier to connect to and relate to other people because it's not about how they specifically move through the world. It's that each of us are trying to find our own rhythm and way of being amongst the chaos. And that connection is deeply relatable. So whether it's that you're pursuing magic or you're pursuing finance or you're doing these different things, like, we're all just kind of trying our best. Like, there's so much relatability there. But to get there, I had to really allow myself to let go of needing my life to look the way I thought it was going to look, which took me a lot of time.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Everybody has this idea of what life is supposed to be, I guess. I'm 32, and 5 years ago, I didn't think that my life would look like this when I was 32.
right, right.
Better
And
and
you said you,
worse, I'd say.
oh, absolutely. And you said you've been doing magic for 9 years, right?
Professionally, yeah, full time.
Right. And so that means
Made
even
it through
within
the
the context,
pandemic.
we should talk about that because, amen, the pandemic was, for all performers, I think,
Sucky.
oh my God. Yeah, like, it's easy in retrospect to be like, I learned a lot and I got some new skills and I was able to maybe take some time and think about what I wanted to change. Great. But oh my God, in the moment, like I was in the middle of a run of shows and then they were like, ooh, actually, you're not. I was
Yeah.
like, what do you mean I'm not? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not a thing anymore. And it's
Yeah,
going to
it's
take
easy to
2
just laugh
years.
about it. Yeah, yeah. It's easy to laugh about it too. Like, oh my God, 2 years. Oh, I've learned so much. But no, it was deep depressions for a lot of us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Crazy, crazy times.
I'm curious, like on the other side of it, do you notice that there has been a change in the way that audiences connect with you?
Well, when I was just getting back, Sweden didn't really have a hard lockdown or anything. And for us, it was more like you could still do shows for 50 people tops, but, basically everything just shut down.
Yeah.
And when I was coming back was people were like craving entertainment and connection way more than I've ever seen before. So I do both stage shows and I also do close-up magic. And mostly when it's like a big stage show, I like to do 30 to 60 minutes of close-up before because I want to know some names in the audience. I want to know some of the inside jokes and stuff like that and the way people talk to each other. So it makes my job way easier later on. Um,
Sure.
and what I found was that I was very socially uncomfortable, but my role as a professional magician, you just can't be. You just have to ignore it. But I was very uncomfortable because I had not been around a lot of people for a really long time because I don't work in an office. What you see is what you get. This is me.
Right.
And what I saw from the other people was that they were like seeking me out, really trying to get to my table to make sure that they saw something. I didn't
Mm,
really see that before.
interesting.
Mm.
Interesting. Yeah. I, I feel a little bit like a forensic scientist as I kind of walk around and just notice the way that people interact and how it's changed. Um, and if you think about it, like it sounds like in Sweden it was a slightly different context, but largely speaking, there was kind of an assumed notion that for a couple of years, like someone could give you a disease that could kill you, and
Mm.
that permeated the way that we looked at each other, related to each other, thought about being around other people.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a guardedness that I think has still come along. And so what's interesting is that behind that guardedness, there is a deep desire to connect, which I think is what you're speaking to about
Mm.
people approaching you and finding you and you're like, please, like I want to
Yeah.
see this magic. I want to be out in the world. I want to feel normal again. Um,
Mm.
but in order to get there, you have to get them into a context where they're willing to let that guard down a little bit, which is different. Um,
Mm.
is very, very different. And I think I so love what you were saying about connecting, because like it's going to be an interesting corollary. In the world of rap and hip hop, like there is so much ego. And so what I'm finding is that actually, if you're willing to relinquish some of your ego in the name of humility, in the name of connection, people are so much more likely to engage with you because no one wants to feel shunned anymore. No one wants to feel on the outside of anything. People are so desperate to feel included. And so that becomes part of your performance is how do I make everyone in this room feel included in what's happening
Yeah. That's why my first trick in my shows are I pick out 5 people in the audience. I step down from the stage. The first thing that happens, they introduce me and I say something funny. And then I walk into the audience because I want them to feel like I'm here in the room with them right now. So I'm walking around,
now.
I'm talking to people, and I find 5 people that I do the first trick with. So they know that I'm not going to hurt them. I'm not going to embarrass them. I'm not going to do anything that's weird. And it's okay to stand up. It's okay that I talk to you. And then I go back on stage. The people are still seated, standing up in the theater or whatever, because I asked them
Yeah.
to stand up, these 5 people, so I can see them. And then I read their thoughts and it's funny. And then they sit back down and that's the first trick. It's great. And then I invite one of these 5 people that I felt there was some sort of connection with back on stage with me. And then they see, it's totally fine. Everything is fine. Nothing's going to hurt. Nothing's going to be embarrassing. Because I think that's what most people fear when they hear there's a magician. Oh my God, they're going to embarrass me,
Yes.
And if we do, we're really not doing our job properly, because magic is about entertainment and connection. And if you're just there to embarrass somebody, you might as well just quit while you have to quit, because you're going to hurt my industry if you do.
Mm. At the risk of asking too big of a question, like, what do you think the role of magic in society is?
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought about that. what is the? Do you have a question? Do you have what is the word for that? Do you have an answer to that question yourself, or was it just something that popped into your head?
It just popped into my head, but it reminds me of something. And again, like, if it hasn't become obvious, the way my brain analogizes things is a little strange. But I worked in restaurants for a long time, for 8 or 9 years, and a big part of that was dedicated to wine and wine service. And
Good job.
I think it awesome, particularly when I was 24 living in New York City. Like, anyone out there, highly recommend. It's pretty great. But what I loved about it was, like, I think, not unlike what you're describing with magicians, when people see a sommelier or a wine person on the floor, there's this tightening of like, oh God, they know more than me and I'm going to look so stupid and I don't want to say my budget and et cetera, et cetera. And like, I always saw the role of the sommelier to help people believe that like a glass of wine is an infinite possibility. Like, you can't even imagine all the different things you can smell and the stories I can tell you about where it's from and why this is meaningful. And like, you can take something that seems so ordinary and make it so profound. And in a way, like, it helps people create a deeper presence and gratitude for just the little things in their life. And I think, like, I'd be curious for you, there might be a difference between close-up magic or stage magic, but I think you go to a magic show not because you believe that magic has happened, but because the experience of believing in magic, even for an hour, opens your mind and your heart in so many ways to what could be possible in your own life. And I think it's like, it's like a booster shot in the arm of inspiration.
Yeah, the director I talked about before, the clown, he said, well, he showed me his business card once, and it said "Creator of Wonders," and I thought that was great. And he said,
Amazing.
"That's what it's all about. That's what we do. That's what we're supposed to do." And
Yes.
maybe a magician's role in society is to make sure your adult self connects with your child, like your inner child, where everything was magical. Like, you put on a microwave for the first time and the food is warm. Oh my God, that's amazing. Or, oh my God, if I pick this thing up and I drop it, it's going to fall to the floor. What?
Yes.
So maybe that's what it is, because maybe magic even is the first type of communication that we learn to understand. I don't know. Maybe that's just a thought. And then as we grow older, we disconnect from this amazing feeling of wonder. And maybe the magician's role is to recreate that.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thought.
Right?
I'm needed. No more pandemic. Yeah. I'm needed.
You are certainly needed. I mean, I think all sorts of performers and entertainers are needed. That's like separate conversation for another time. So I'm curious, like, for you, when you're evaluating your own performance, and I love that you said, like, I always take 5 minutes and just try to go through, like, what did I say? What did I do? What did I try? And how did it go? Like, I think that's such a rich practice. But like, when you're self-evaluating, what must be present for you to feel like the performance was really excellent or special?
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Another great question. I think what's most important to me is that I feel like I was present in the moment. That's it's so easy to get distracted, especially if you've done your show like a million times. It's so easy to be like, okay, what's for dinner tomorrow? Oh, did I book my laundry time? Or, did I pay my taxes? Or, and especially when you're trying out a new bit. I'm sure that most performers have this, where they have their show and they have their set opener, they have their set ending, and then there's something in the middle that's going to be new.
Yes.
And whenever I have that, up until the moment I've done it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited this is going to happen. And then after I've done it, I'm like, oh my God, how the fuck did that go? So you have these like excitement, and then you do it. And then afterwards you're like, oh my God, the anxiety. So I don't feel like I'm connected to the audience and the moment when I'm doing those things. So for me to feel like the show has been great, I must feel like I was there, like I was in the room. And so most times when, sometimes you're heading to the show and you're like, I don't feel like doing this today. And I feel like, oh, maybe this is the day, this is work and not just passion, And that's when sometimes I text my agent, like, I really don't want to do this today. And she's like, oh, remember, that's when you're going to have the most fun. And she's so right, because, I go there to the show and I'm like, I really don't want to be here. And then they introduce me and I'm like, oh my God, I get to do this for a living. It's like they smack me on the face, like back and forth. And then I go up and I'm like, yeah, this is the dream. People actually pay me to show them card tricks. How crazy is that?
I mean, yes. And what I would say is, like, for me, the energetic experience of being watched is such a rush. And again, to your point, it's like a little bit, but like but I think with the way, for me, the way that lands is like, because I'm always focused on being of service to other people. So like the narcissism is in believing that my stories and the way that I communicate them, whether it's through poetry or storytelling or song, is interesting enough and powerful enough that I can break through to someone and connect to an emotion that they've had in the past in a way that they aren't expecting, and have them leave with a different perception of what is possible in their life. So like, yes, some amount of ego is necessary to believe that that is possible. But when I'm on stage, I don't at all carry a notion of like, it's all about me or everyone cares about me. I was like, no, like, I'm here to serve. Like, that's from restaurants, right? It's like,
or
that's the whole mentality. Or church, absolutely. Like, it's my brain today, it's ridiculous. It's special. It's sick. So like, sick brain is really interesting, because like sometimes some of the barriers and like walls that are going to keep the conversation narrow are fucking broken. So like, we're going left now. But so you talked about your tattoo, which said designed by God, which is beautiful. And I read a book that's a conversation between the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu. So like two of the holiest people in the entire world. And you'll
you were
appreciate
not invited?
this. I was not, unfortunately,
No, okay.
but I'm working on it. But what you would appreciate is that the majority of their dialogue is them just like ribbing each other and telling jokes, like the whole thing. And they're like, this is joy. Like, this is connection. This is life. Like, I call him fat and he knows I love him with every depth of my being. And so like, that's very present. But something they said that I love so much is like, humility is not about downplaying your ability or what is special about you. It's acknowledging that everyone has something special about them that was given by God. And so the way that you can convey magic, the way that you can connect to people, is your gift. And I don't need to feel any pang or twinge of jealousy toward you and your ability, because I was also given a gift. And every person who's in the crowd, they also have a gift. The extent to which they're in communication with that gift or accessing that gift, totally irrelevant. It's real and it's present. And so like, I see my job as connecting to what I feel and what I think I'm great at, because I know that it was put here in some way. Like, yes, my life has been about carving it and refining it and honing it, but like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That's the feeling I have on stage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It also feels like when you're on stage and you have that feeling, it's like when you feel connected to the audience and to your inner self. And it's so hard to explain it if you haven't really tried it out before.
Yes. It's it's perfect alignment, right? It's like, it's like my heart is open and I'm expressing exactly as myself. It is being received exactly as I am, and it's landing. Like, there's no artifice, there's something amazing about the fact that it happens at a magic show, because the whole premise is that like things are happening that people don't understand. But as you pointed out, like, it's not true, because they can still connect to you as a human being. It's not about the card trick. Not all about the card trick.
98% is just personality and persona anyways. 2% is just a trick. It could be any trick. The trick doesn't matter. It's everything else that matters.
Yes, 100%.
Actually, this reminded me of something. There's something you said before. I did an interview years ago. Maybe it was, I think it was like 2018. Must have been 2018. They asked me, what's my most proud moment as an entertainer, like in my career so far? And the same moment is still true to this day. And I was all alone. I had done nothing. I was sitting on a stage. It was backstage, like on the stage, like the curtain was down. It was my first day of tour. It was so the premiere night, and I hear the audience, and it's this thick, beautiful red curtain. It's you only have these in like fancy theaters, and it was all red and gold, and it was great. I really loved it, and I was sitting there by myself, just listening to all of these people coming in, and I could hear my ex-boyfriend's mom. I could hear her voice because she has a very special voice. And I sit there by myself, and I see the technicians on the sides, and I'm like, I did this, and as I'm sitting there just thinking to myself, I had this dream, like 25 years ago, and here I am, and as I'm sitting there, I see the smoke coming in because the first trick has smoke in it, and it just thickens up, and then I hear the music and the curtain comes up, and I don't think I've ever been more present in a moment in my entire life, not even when I gave birth to my kids. It's don't tell my boyfriend that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that
the
was
conversation yeah. The conversation I had last week was all about parenting, and we're like, who's honest about parenting? Nobody. So like, do you want to have an honest conversation about parenting for a while? And we did, and it was beautiful, and like, I wish it would happen more often, but I can completely understand what you're saying about that.
yeah.
I do have questions about being a mom, but I love that story. And there's this I think the way I would describe being an entrepreneur, and particularly one that is performing, you spend so much time running blindfolded.
Yeah.
Like, you are working your ass off, like you are learning, and you can certainly see and sense growth, but it's not in a super tangible or measurable way. And you're just pouring yourself into it, and you have those days where you're like, what am I, like, why? Why do I do this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you get what I call, like, it's a little gift from the universe, which it just feels like a moment or an opportunity or something where it's like someone's watching. I don't know who or what or how, like, the mechanics of it work, but something or someone is paying attention, and they're letting me know that, like, I'm doing the right thing. And even if only for a moment, this little bit of solace of, like, it's chaos and it's okay. Like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Ugh, such a gift.
It is such a gift.
Yeah.
I think talent might be overrated, but connecting to your inner self and to your inner, like, passion or whatever, I think maybe that's the superpower that most people have. You can be talented, you could be, you can have skills, but I don't think that you could ever reach the type of success that you think if you don't have that special. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
That connection to self.
Maybe.
Please allow me to briefly interrupt my wonderful conversation to let you know about a few things that we have coming up. I have 2 shows on deck. One is on February 23rd up in Boulder. It is with So Far Sounds, which means the location is actually undisclosed. You buy your ticket the day of the show. They will send you an email with the official location. They're always in really interesting spots. It's a great crowd. It's a great community of artists. Highly, highly recommended. And then I have a show on the 10th with Concert. That's Qoncert at the Roxy, opening up for Flojo. I'm going to be doing brand new sets for both shows, so I'm very excited about them. If you would like tickets or more information, please go to www.jackdawkinsraps.com.
Yeah, well, and like, because when you think about the pursuit of, should be fine. I'm technically watching my 5-year-old and clearly doing a great job. The thing about talent is, like, it doesn't have to imply perfectionism, but it implies some standard of performance. But again, if it's delivered without emotion or without connection, it almost doesn't matter. There are some people who are so prodigiously talented that you just can't stop watching them because of the hours and hours and hours they poured in. But the vast majority, it's the human that you're compelled by, not the talent. Almost always.
And this reminds me of my first experience watching David Copperfield. So he's one of my favorite magicians, of course. And I look up to him so much because he's done,
Legend.
all the things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's great. And if you were to ask me what's your favorite performance of all time, first time seeing David Copperfield. I've seen him like 10 times now.
Wow.
But a lot of people have the experience that is like, oh, David is not there, he's not connected, he's just doing this on remote, he doesn't even like being on stage anymore. And he still does 15 shows a week, you know. That's great, that's cool.
Does he really?
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
I know. How cool is that? Oh my god.
Wow.
And he's still so sexy. So yeah, he's amazing. But yeah, so I saw the show, loved it. It was great. And then I hear these people, they're like, oh my god, he wasn't connected, and all of these things that they say. And I think for him, he's been doing this for such a long time, and of course, he's going to have bad days. Everybody has bad days at work. But when I've seen him, it's been when it's a magic convention in Vegas. So he knows there's going to be thousands of magicians who have looked up to him for decades, who's going to come to see him. And of course he's going to up his game, you know? Of course he's going to go to work being like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm going to see these people. Maybe he doesn't like think that, but I think inside he knows that he has inspired hundreds, if not thousands of these people who are sitting in the audience that night. And I've only seen him those weeks. You know, and people who tell me that, oh, he was not connected, they have not. They've been there in January or February, and that's where no magicians are there, so he's not stepping up. This is just a theory, of course, but he's very inspiring. I think he's the entire journey he's done. Like, he took over the world. Do you think there's a spot for a person coming after, or because I'm free?
Yeah, right.
I'm thinking that maybe the next great magician should be female, and I just happen to know somebody. She's really cool.
She's great. She's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
She learned from a clown, which is perfect.
I know.
It's awesome. I like. There is something very, because like you could say like Chris Angel and David Blaine. Like, it's not that there haven't been other magicians that have been wildly successful.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this reference will land. I would compare it to like Tony Hawk and skateboarding. It's not that there haven't been other skateboarders, but like Tony Hawk is the guy.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. You identify him so completely with that sport, and like that to me is what David Copperfield is to magic. It's like synonymous. You cannot know one without knowing the other. It's impossible.
It's like talking about theater and not talking about Shakespeare.
100%. 100%. And I think your theory is spot on, because there's something. I actually would love to hear your thoughts on this. So I think in restaurants, there was a very specific and like, it's a very fine line about how much of yourself you really share with a guest. Because if you want them to be comfortable, they can't know that you are stressed or struggling financially or in the fucking weeds or sold out of like half your menu, right? Like, your goal is to be this epitome of grace as you are serving this person. Similarly, on stage, like, you want to create that human connection, but it's usually guided toward warmth, not about commiseration, not about like, man, life is hard. But I think in performing for people who are within your craft, you know that they intuitively and inherently understand the difficulties that you've been through to create this opportunity. So they know how hard you're working, and it makes you want to shine that much brighter, because you know that they appreciate all the nuance and all the detail and all the little things that you might work on for hours that 90% of a crowd may never notice. Yeah. But in that room, like, everyone notices, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, I can watch a performance and think, oh my God, that's tens of thousands of hours for 5 seconds.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, sometimes we talk about you only see the tip of the iceberg, and that's true, except for when you are a peer and you go to see a show. Like me, I watch David Copperfield. I'm like, as you said, I see the hard work. I see the hours and hours of failed practice, and then what it turned out to be,
Yes. Is there a particular like trick or skill that you are like in that process with right now, where you are working really hard to get it right and it has proven elusive for the time being? Thank you, babe.
I have been working on a trick for 8 years.
Thanks,
oh,
babe.
She's so cute.
Yeah. You want to say hi, babe? Nope, she's running away.
I'm actually in the process of donating my eggs.
Oh my gosh. what prompted that decision?
Well, it's been a work in progress, like everything.
Right.
It's been 10 years
Yeah.
in the thinking.
Oh my gosh.
My sister's son is an IVF kid. It's her egg, but it's a sperm donor.
Okay.
And so he just turned 9, and I've been thinking about it ever since, but not like actively or anything. And every time I've been to the gynecologist, they've always been like, "Oh, you have so many good eggs," and I've been like, "How the fuck do you know?" You know.
Yeah.
But
Thanks? Question mark. Like,
right? Is this a compliment or are you just hitting on me?
yeah.
But yeah, so that was just super duper strange. And I had my twins. Did not plan for 2, right? Apparently, I dropped 2 eggs at a time, and my mother did this twice. So I have the genes for this, I guess. Well,
Yes.
and my friend, she's really struggling to have kids. They've been trying for years, and I know so many people like try and try and try. And I keep hearing I have so many good, like usable eggs. So they asked me to take a test, and I did. And it turns out I have like a gazillion eggs that I can give away if I want to. And so I'm in the process right now. I'm just a few weeks away from giving them away. And it's not like I'm giving all of them away, because apparently you get new ones every single month, and then you don't just drop one, you drop like multiples. And only one survives. I did not know this until like last week. And apparently what IVF, well, the process that I'm going to be going through is I'm going to get some needles, like hormones, to make sure that not only one egg survives, but all of them. So they're going to collect all of the eggs that would normally just die, and they're going to be up for donation.
Cool.
Because have you seen how pretty
amazing.
I am? I need to take this. Why is this a podcast? It should be a video.
There is video. It looks weird right now, but there will be video that we actually get to enjoy. No,
this is the keeper right here.
This face. No, I've had a number of friends who have gone through IVF, and like anyone who is willing to go through that, bless you. And anyone who is willing to contribute in a way that allows people to have an opportunity to have a kid. Right? I think that's a gift. Like, how are you feeling about being a mom, particularly to twins, which is not easy.
It's not easy, no. But we took in a full-time nanny, actually, when they were 3 months old. Yeah, so we took in a full-time nanny. She's Colombian, so she speaks only Spanish with the kids, which is great. So now they're going to be bilingual, well, 3 languages, I guess, since I'm going to be teaching them English as well. I travel so much. Like, and I was away like the summer from June to November. I was away like 14 to 16 days at a time. Came home 5 days and then away again for 2 weeks. So I kind of felt bad for leaving my kids behind, but I still have this dream of taking over after Copperfield, and it's so hard to talk about parenting without like feeling like you're a shit mom. But yeah, I decided to leave them now, so when they're not going to remember it, because they were like 6 months. And I'm thinking I'm going to make another decision when they're older and I know that they will remember, but that was the right choice at the time.
I think, yeah, I think a conversation that doesn't get had often enough is like you being the fullest, most complete expression of yourself is the person who is going to be the best parent and the best mother. And so are there complications with being like there because you're traveling? Yeah, of course. Like, and look, again, like speaking of like the fucking roller coaster of humanity, like we're all just doing our best. Like we're all trying to figure out how to create a space for the lives that we want. Absolutely. And frankly, like there's now been so many different versions of how you can be a parent and what it means to be present versus not, and how you choose to be involved and what you pursue. And I think the aspiration to supplant David Copperfield and to do it as a woman is beautiful. And like, that's going to take work. Duh, right? Like that's going to take a material investment of your time, energy, and love. That's allowed. That's okay.
How great would it be if the twins were identical, though? That would be skipping ahead 10 years.
Yes, would have been very useful.
It would have been.
Although, like, it does feel like there is an incredible opportunity for comedy. Particularly when they're older, if they wanted to be a part of the show, to like do a trick and have the big reveal, and everyone would be like, that's obviously a different person. They'd be like, yeah, but they're twins. Wink. See? Like, I totally nailed it. I mean, like, I guess I would ask this question, because I definitely have this, like, when I allow myself to indulge in delusions of grandeur and I think about playing big venues or doing big shows or having cool opportunities as a result of pursuing art, like it's very much my hope that she gets an opportunity to participate and to have these cool experiences when she is younger, or a teenager, who knows. But you know, like she'll get to have these moments where she gets to see or try or do something really interesting because I chose to pursue a path that again isn't traditional but is aligned with what is meaningful to me. Like,
Mm.
do you have hopes that like you'll have your kids backstage or that they'll be in the show with you? Like, do you ever think about that?
Well, the first trip we ever took with the kids was to Las Vegas because I was working. So
Perfect.
yes. Yeah, and they spend time with my weirdest friends, like the jugglers and the clowns and
Hmm.
burlesque dancers, and you know, all of these weirdos. And that's the way I want it to be, because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the weirdo, I guess, in our family. And then my boyfriend is also an entrepreneur, so he starts businesses and then like moves on and has another idea, and you know, so he's going to be giving them very much of that side, I hope, like the dream big, you can do something whatever
Mm-hmm.
you want and then you can move on to something else. Whereas I'll be the creative outlet, I guess. Like if there's
Yeah.
something that I wish for my kids, is that they will be creative in any way that they possibly can. So if it's
Mm.
art, or if they're painting, or they're singing, or they're dancing, it doesn't matter. They don't even have to do magic at all, as long as they don't do mentalism. That's where I draw the line. But no, they're
Oh.
totally joking. Mentalists are okay. But yeah, so it's
Tolerable.
tolerable. Yeah. But yeah, it's very important for me that they get a creative outlet.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally get that. It's
Mm.
we my partner Amelia and I, my co-parent, like a conversation we've had a couple of times is like, I don't really care if she does well in school. I care that she has something in her life that matters to her. That is so much more important to me. And it's like, you're an athlete and you want to go that route. You're a performer or a creative. You want to paint, you want to sing, you want to tap dance, you want to be a videographer, you want to be behind the camera. Like, all of those are completely fine. With probably more desperation than there should be, like, just
Mm.
really hope she finds something that lights her up. Cause like, my goodness, life with something that lights you up versus a perfectly comfortable existence with nothing that terribly excites you. For me, like, I'm allergic. I'd go insane. I would rather be struggling in all the ways if I was doing something that really mattered to me. Um, and so trying to not be overly prescriptive, but to try and create as much space as possible for her to have the option to find something that she really loves and then pursue it full out 110%.
Mm. As long as it's not like weed growing or
Ah,
carjacking
I
or
don't know. Well, yeah, like ideally not hard felony crime. Like that would be not great.
yeah.
Um, but yes, but generally, like, okay, like, you want to grow weed? Okay, cool. Tell me about it. Like, what about it lights you up?
Mm.
Um, I think I'm sure this is different, like, because of the United States versus Europe and generational things. But like for my parents, there were so many things that like good people don't do that. Like, good
Mm.
people would never pursue these things or try these things. And like, I understand where it comes from. And there have to be lines, right? It's like, I love smashing car windows. It's like, I'm glad you love that. Like, I don't know how we're going to make that a sustainable living for you, but I hear you. Um, but in the grand scheme of things, I think I try to be really sensitive to my own internal of like, ooh, like that's not a good choice, or that's not the right thing, or you can do better than that. Like, I mean, one of the wonders of the internet, you can see so many people who have pursued so many things to a level and a depth that I could never imagine. And what they do is incredible. Like, I saw a guy on TikTok the other day who makes entire, like, huge poster drawings by writing one word over and over and over again.
What?
I didn't know that
That's
was
so
a
cool.
thing. They're amazing. Like, they're incredible portraits, and he's just literally writing one word over and over and over again. And it's like, I don't know how you foster like someone's excitement or interest around that, other than to just tell people like, It doesn't matter how crazy the idea is. It doesn't matter if it makes sense to anybody else. If it's meaningful to you and it lights you up, that's enough. And you can go do it.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. What advice, other than meet a clown, which is amazing advice, would you give to someone who is, I have two questions, I guess, because there's like some people at home who see close-up magic and like, that's so cool. So like, what advice would you give to that person who just has a curiosity and a spark, but has no idea where to start? And then what advice would you give to someone who is learning to get to the level you're at, where they're doing real stage work and things like that?
If they're just starting doing close up or any type of magic at all, I would highly recommend them to go to a magic convention and meet other people who are in the same situation or newer or have been in the industry for a longer time. What I really like about smaller magic conventions is that you get to meet your heroes. Like, I don't know if you know who Richard Turner is. Do you know who this guy is?
No.
No? He's a blind card cheat. It's incredible. Like, he's completely blind and he does card tricks. It's insanity. Like, he shuffles the cards and it's gonna blow your mind. You have to look him up, by the way. There's a documentary called Dealt. It's really interesting. And you get to hang out with him. You know, if you go to a small magic convention and he just happens to be there, he's going to be hanging out. You know, that's real. And I go to them, so you can hang out with me. And most magicians, they're really, really nice. So you can ask them questions and they will help you. And if you show them a trick, they will direct you and help you, like make sure that it gets better. If you've been doing magic for a while and you want to get to a higher level, I think you might need to find yourself a mentor. My mentor is Tom Stone. We don't work together much anymore. I tried to mentor other people. So when he started mentoring me, I asked him, like, how much is this going to cost? Or, you know, like, I was thinking money wise, like, how is this going to be a good investment for you? And he said, whenever you get the opportunity to give someone else the same experience, I want you to do that. And it's really paying it forward. And I think that's the way magic is going to survive, because if magic is not supposed to be shared, okay, we see magic on YouTube and all of these things, of course, but if magic is not to be shared in the public as normal art is supposed to be, I think magic is going to die if we don't take the mentorship seriously. So I actually started a book club for magicians called the Magicians Book Club. We meet every Sunday on Zoom. And we started last year in January, and now we're 780 members, I think. It's been growing to a very big audience. I know, crazy, huh? All nerds. But yeah, so we meet every Sunday. Better. So, sorry?
Even better.
Yeah, all nerds. Yeah, even better. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, so it's great, and you don't even have to read the books that we're talking about. You just come on in, and you're welcome. It's totally free. And I think that's the way to do it. If you've been, like, you started already and you want to move up, you need to find a community for you to actually experience these things, like hire a mentor, join a group, join a magic society, and just see what other people are doing. Because I feel like most of the magicians, they're just in their little nest, and then they don't really see what the real world is. Because there are a lot of socially, like, awkward people who got into magic because it's the only thing that they can basically do by themselves without having to leave the house, and that's totally fine, and it's a great way to express yourself. But if you have that experience and if you don't really know how to socially interact with people, I would not go to a magic convention as the first one. I would look into like a smaller magic circle, because they have that everywhere. Like, if you're American, you can go to IBM, I think it's called, International Brotherhood of Magicians, and you can find like local circles you can join.
Amazing. That's so cool. I can't believe you have 800 people on Zoom. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, we're not all there, at the same time. Most people are in America, and I'm Sweden based. So for me, it's I have to do it in a convenient time for me. So a lot of people choose to watch afterwards. And since I'm an entrepreneur, I started a kind of like Patreon, but my own platform. So it's ravnmagic.com. So you can become a monthly subscriber or a yearly one. It's way cheaper. And so if you can't make it live, you can actually go see the recordings over there. And I also teach things like behind the scenes, really, of what it's like running the showbiz, like the business side of showbiz. Because I think a lot of people misconfuse what show business is. Like they see the show and they see the business and they think that show, oh, that's the main word. That's what we're going to be doing. But they miss that the business word is actually double in length and also the only thing that actually makes sense for you to work on when you're not standing on a stage.
Yes.
So I teach all of that.
Amazing. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
This has been such a joy, and I know it's later in the evening for you, so I want to let you go. But thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your thoughts. And if nothing else, I feel like my major takeaway is like connecting to yourself and allowing that to connect you to your audiences. That's the whole game.
That's the whole game.
That's the whole game. Oh, thank you again. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. I had such a good time.
Thank you so much for listening to Stage Dive. I'm having so much fun having all these conversations and meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. But I appreciate that this is also going out to you, the person who is listening. So my request, my ask, my desire, if you have any curiosities, questions, guest recommendations, suggestions for the podcast, please send us an email at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email that comes through. We will get back to you. We really do want to hear what you love about the podcast, things that you think could improve, and how we can make this a better show for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.